Am I good? Yeah. Okay. All right. Just a little, just to supplement on, I guess to kind of give you the story. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I moved here to go to law school 36 years ago, and I've never left. I started my career in public accounting. I was a tax consultant. I have this law degree. I had an MBA. And I really had this mindset that the more you knew and the more credentials you had, the more successful you would be. And I couldn't be more wrong with respect to that. Because I decided to leave after about 6.5 years. And I tell people that a funny thing happened when I left. And the funny thing was that nothing happened. I had no idea how to get clients. And I struggled for about a month. And it's complicated in the United States with attorneys because we're not allowed to call people and we're not allowed to advertise. So you have to kind of wait for the phone to ring. It might be like that in other countries, but it's definitely that way here. So I struggled, and I had lunch one day with a friend who was an attorney, and I asked her what I needed to do to be successful. And she said I needed to get into a tips club or a leads group. I really had no idea what she was talking about, but she introduced me to some people. I found myself one morning at a group of people, entrepreneurs, sales reps, professionals that got together weekly, learned about each other, and exchanged referrals. If you're familiar with BNI, it was essentially that, but it wasn't that. It was another organization, and it's a long story. But at one point, I bought the organization. I became involved, got more and more involved. At one point, had an opportunity to buy it out, and this is in the early 2000s. And at that moment, I decided I was going to stop the practice of law, and my life took on a whole different trajectory at that point, because all of a sudden I went from being this attorney, which is very left brain, to being somebody who was becoming a student of networking, of professional relationships. And I just wanted to learn more and more to try and help the people who were part of my organization, which is called AMspirit Business Connections. And that has led me to writing books. It's led me to podcasts, speaking. I was in Germany last week doing a Zoom. I'm all over the world. It's nobody wants to talk to me locally. It's just it's in other parts of the world. But anyhow, that's really kind of my background and how I've really kind of grown and developed to understand what this networking thing's all about. And I'm right on top of the picture here, which is not good, but I'm just going to move aside just for a second here, just to show you this. But there's a famous anthropologist out there. Her name is Margaret Mead. And she was teaching a class, and one of the students asked, what was the first sign of human civilization? She thought about it, and everyone was waiting and trying to guess at answers. Was it fire? Was it tools? Was it weapons, clay pots? And her answer was this: a healed femur. She went on to explain that in the animal kingdom, you don't see animals with healed femurs. They break their femur, and to let you know, the femur is the bone that connects the knee to essentially the hip bone. When an animal breaks its femur, it's a death sentence. It can't move, it can't hunt, it can't get water, it dies. But when they came across a human with a healed femur, they knew that there was something there, that people stayed behind and risked everything to care for one another. And I think about that. I think about that comment. I think about that answer and that situation all the time when I think of networking, because that DNA is all still in us. We have conquered every nook and cranny of this planet. Heck, we've been to the moon, and it all involved networking. It all involved relationships. It all involved collaborating. And the things that you guys do, it has everything to do with this moment where humans are helping one another. And so all the things you're talking about with respect to reciprocity, which is, essentially the exchange of things with others for mutual benefit. That's essentially what reciprocity is. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but that's essentially what we're talking about here with respect to the organization. You guys are exchanging referrals, you're exchanging information, you're exchanging opportunities, you're exchanging encouragement, you're exchanging just all sorts of different things. And that just all goes back to that moment in time where there were at least one person decided, you know what, I'm going to stay with this person. They need help, and I'm going to stay with them. And just to kind of provide some context, without medical attention, it takes about 6 weeks for a femur to heal. So we're talking about 6 weeks of time that somebody decided, I'm going to put my life on hold. I'm going to risk everything to stay with somebody. And we live in a time now where it's really kind of hard to imagine what life was like back then. But they were hunters and gatherers, and they didn't eat every day. And finding things to eat was not easy. Finding water was not easy. Being out was perilous because there were all sorts of threats out there. So essentially, what you guys do. But what I want to talk about today is that reciprocity is better inspired than being obligated to. And what I mean by that is, and I talked to lots of people about the whole notion of giving back. Essentially, they're of the mind that, hey, people do things for me, I owe them something in return, and that's what I mean by being obligated to. When somebody does something for you, you feel this sense of obligation, and that's really hardwired into us. If you stop and go back in time, probably sometime after somebody stuck around to help somebody with a healed femur, we started developing tribes, groups, or clans, however you want to determine it. We determined that to stay in that group, however you want to call it, a tribe or a clan, you had to contribute to the group. If you didn't contribute, you were gone. How that was done, I'm not exactly sure. But if you didn't have a group to rely upon, you were done. You weren't going to survive. And so we are keenly aware that helping other people, we're hardwired to help other people. We're hardwired to keep an eye on other people who are, in lack of a better term, keeping score as to what other people are doing. And so when I say reciprocity is better inspired, what I'm really saying is just try and get on the front end of it. Give without expectation. And so what I want to do, as this is your 5th anniversary, I want to go through 5 ways to inspire reciprocity. Adopt a willing mindset, check, compare, reflect, listen and take action, be the quarterback, and think big picture. So I'm just going to go through these one by one. If there's questions that are in the chat, I'm not going to be looking at the chat. So somebody interrupt me at any point with questions, if you will, or save them till the end, however you guys want to do it. The first thing is adopt a willing mindset. I run an organization which competes with BNI. And so I have hundreds of members throughout the United States. And I tell these people all the time that unless you are willing to recommend the people around you, unless you are willing to use the people around you, you can't expect that they're going to do it for you. You have to have this willing mindset. You have to be willing to help the people around you. You may not always find the opportunities to help other people, but you have to be willing to. It's got to be important to you. And if it's not, then you can't expect that it be important to them. So that's the first couple points with respect to adopting a willing mindset. The other thing I talk about is believing in the possibilities. I hear this all the time, and I listen to what everyone did here. Prior as an attorney, I remember that much. But you all have different categories. One's a caterer, different sorts of consultants, and there are a lot of businesses that I see here in the States as well. And I might hear somebody say something about a consultant saying, you know what, I don't know how to give them referrals. I will never be able to give them a referral. And what I tell them is that never is a horrible word. There's a big difference between it's going to be hard to give somebody a referral and I never could give them a referral. And if you say I could never give somebody a referral, then you basically, your mind just shuts it off. It stops working. But if you're willing to say, you know what, this is going to be difficult for me to give somebody a referral, your mind will continue to work. Not consciously necessarily, but subconsciously. There's a woman in one of my chapters, and every year it's her goal to give everybody a referral. And there are certain people, she's a graphic designer, and there are certain people where it's real easy. The printer, it's very easy. Referrals are going to the printer all the time. But then there are other people in the group where it becomes more difficult. And she'll use that word. I know this is going to be difficult. And she might point to somebody and say, you know what, you're going to be difficult to give a referral to, but I'm going to do it. We're going to have lunch. We're going to get together. I'm going to make it happen. So that's the third point, is that you need to believe in the possibilities that you can help everybody on this screen, everybody within your network. And if you believe that, those opportunities will come to you. The second point I want to make with respect to inspiring reciprocity is what I call check, compare, and reflect. Every week, every day, you're out there with various clients. And when you're out there with those clients, you're in whatever mode you're in. I have a friend, she is a telecommunications consultant. Her and I joined the organization the same week. She's still in the organization. She's like a sister to me. And she's very prolific at giving referrals. And I just asked her, I said, well, how do you give so many referrals? And she says, what I do every week is I sit down with the people that I've met with. And I compare that to the people in my network, the people in my group. And she says, the reason I do that is when I'm out with my clients, I'm in telecommunication mode. I'm thinking about them and how to help them with respect to what I do. And I'm not necessarily thinking and listening about the things that they need. And so I take a quiet moment over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and I stop and think about those interactions. And she says, it doesn't generate tons of referrals, but I always pick up one or two every week by doing that. And imagine one or two extra referrals every week over the course of a year. It starts to really add up. There's another person I know in the organization, and what he does is he has a checklist. He's an accountant. When he meets with his clients, he has a checklist he goes through. And he has lots of things on that checklist, and the things that are on that checklist reflect the people who are in his group. Much like you guys would put together a checklist that would reflect everybody who's here, and you would have questions that you would ask your clients, ask your network with respect to the people, sitting in this organization. And you would work with those people to figure out what those questions are. This individual's name is Jeff, and Jeff is very casual about how he does it. He doesn't sit with his clients and say, I want to go through a checklist. He just has the checklist there, and he'll just ask questions. Well, who do you get office furniture from? Do you rent this office furniture or do you own it? And he asked that question because there's somebody he knows who does that. So he wants to get at that information. So it's sitting and looking and thinking about your network day to day, just over in a quiet moment. Because when you're really working with your client, you don't have that opportunity. But if you're willing to take those quiet moments when you're driving in the car, when you're going for a morning walk or an evening walk or whenever you're doing, or just kind of sitting and doing whatever you do, mow the yard, shovel snow. We shovel snow here in the States, whatever it might be. Here's a thought bubble that, Gina's sitting down saying, come to think of it, when I was at their office, I noticed that the copier was out of order. I should see if they could use an introduction to Dennis. Well, Dennis is somebody she knows who fixes copiers, who sells copiers. Now, she wasn't going to talk to him about it in the moment, but she'll go back to the client later and say, you know what, I saw your copies were broken. Is there a problem? I know somebody I could introduce you to. So that's just one idea. The next thing I want to talk about is listening and taking action. you have to pay attention to what other people are saying, because people are asking for help all the time. And they're not asking for help in a direct way, but it's a very indirect way. And if you stop and listen to what people are saying, there are ways for you to be what I call a hero to them. And I'm going to give you an example. This is an example. You're talking to somebody and they say, wow, you don't realize how small an apartment is until you have a toddler. Well, that person's not saying, can you get me to a realtor? But that person's saying, can you get me somebody who can help me buy a house or a bigger apartment? And here's an opportunity that you can swing into action and help these people. Now, people are saying things all the time. For example, if somebody says, geez, I'm having a bad day, I'm just, I'm beside myself. That could be, that could be lots of things. It could be, maybe they need a new job, a different direction with their business. Maybe they just need a vacation, whatever it might be. Maybe they need a babysitter. It could be lots of things. And what I encourage you to do as you stop and listen to people is don't just let the statements go. Start asking questions. People want to know that you care, right? It goes back to that moment of sitting with that person who has a broken femur. They want to know that you care. And if you care, they cannot help but return that. They can't help but return that sense of caring and loving. When Aman was talking about toddlers, I picked up on he was talking about present options. And it was, to me, it was interesting because he talked about the amygdala. That's the very, very primitive part of the brain. And, the trick to get out of people with that flight or fight mentality is to get them to engage their neocortex. And so, and part of that, engaging people's neocortex is starting to ask questions and showing that you care. And it's, people pick up on that, not consciously, but subconsciously they're caring about those things. So I encourage you to stop and listen to the things that the people you work with say. And that may be more than just the people you work with. It might be friends who might be saying things. Sitting on this call right now, there are tons of resources. There are resources that can help lots of people in lots of different ways. And you probably have more opportunities to help the people sitting on this call than you realize if you just stop and listen to what people are talking about and ask them, you're having a bad day. What's going on? What is it? You're just overwhelmed, maybe you need an assistant, whatever it can be. The next thing is be the quarterback. Now, I know you guys may not be familiar with American football, but American football is king in America, go figure. But what the quarterback is the person when the ball is snapped, when the ball is hiked or the ball is set into play, it always goes to the quarterback, or generally goes to the quarterback. And the quarterback is the person that has the play. The quarterback is the person who can assess the situation. And the quarterback is the person then who can decide where the ball is going to go, whether they're going to hand it off or pass it or keep it and run. And so when I say be the quarterback, what I mean is essentially going to your network and expressing to them that you're a resource and you want them to look at you as a resource. I have a friend who he was in the organization for a number of years, probably 20 years, and he's a financial advisor. He has left now. He's got a team of people he's trying to get into the organization. But what he did with respect to his clients is he would always tell them, and he would share it in a couple of ways, but he would convey this message. If you need anything at all, please let me know. I have a wonderful network of people that serve people in lots and lots of different ways. And you should never feel like you're alone out there trying to find somebody to service you. And he would convey that to his memory, to his network, to his clients in a number of ways. One, he would say it to them. So if he's meeting with them, he'd always close by saying, remember, if you need anything at all, contact me. It would be my honor to help you. And it would certainly be his honor to help them, but he would ensure that they had good people to service them. The other thing he might do is he might include it at the bottom of a letter or inside a letter. He would just plant that seed, continually plant that seed. If you ever need anything at all, I have a great resource of people. I will make sure that you are taken care of. And then the third thing he did was he had these little cards that were made up, and whenever he sent out statements to his clients, he would include that card on there that would basically say, if you ever need anything at all, please contact me. Now, that third thing is less useful because nobody sends out statements anymore. Everything's electronic, but you get the point. He's driving this home that I want to be your quarterback. I want to help you with whatever you need. And he said through the years that he had generated a lot of opportunities for other people, as well as helped his clients by doing this and planting this seed. He said once I got burned, I had somebody come to me and they needed their roof redone on their house. And he said, I didn't know anybody who did that, but I was able to tell them, give me a day, I will find somebody for you. And so he just talked to somebody he knew, a realtor, and they found somebody. So here's an example. Well, exactly what I said. Listen, if you need anything at all, I've got an amazing network of people, and you guys you have this amazing network of people. You just need to let people know that you have it, because then they will come to you and say, hey, you told me to come to you, and I'm looking for this. I need this help. Can you help me? And you might not have the answer, but somebody here has the answer. You just need to tap into it, but you need to plant that seed with respect to the people you work with. And again, not going to necessarily generate lots of things, but it'll generate a few here, a few there, and then over time, those really add up. And then the last thing I wanted to say with respect to this is think big picture. Things don't have to make perfect sense all the time. Sometimes I'll try to connect people. I'll make introductions, and people are, well, I don't understand. Why would this be a good introduction? They're not a good client for me. No, they're not a good client for you, but they run in the same circles you run in. They know lots of good clients for you, and you know lots of good clients for them. Sometimes it's just introducing two people, that are just two great professionals and letting them figure it out. Doesn't always have to make sense. Relationships, networking, and the things that come from it take time. And networking will work. It just doesn't work exactly how you want it to work. It doesn't exactly work on your time frame. I've talked to a lot of people who, I met them 20 years ago at a wedding, and they just called me out of the blue. It doesn't always work how you want it to work, right? I mean, you go to a function and you're there for clients, and in the course of talking to somebody, you find out about that great vacation spot, inexpensive, but it works. And so, your job with respect to this and helping the people on here and inspiring reciprocity is just to help connect people and help grow their network. It doesn't always make perfect sense. I call it creating triads, just introducing people. I think you two would like knowing one another and having them take it from there and getting on a call and finding out, wow, I don't know anybody who needs you, but I've got a friend that would be a perfect person for you to talk to. So here's another thought bubble. I'm not sure that introducing these two make perfect sense, but I know that nothing happens unless I try. And that's the way I look at it. If I tell people all the time, I'm going to introduce you to, I don't know what's going to come of it, but I know nothing will happen if you guys don't talk. So please take the opportunity to talk. And I'm amazed at what comes out of those opportunities. I guess a quick aside. COVID's been horrible, right? It's been horrible in lots and lots of ways, but it's been a great thing too because it's opened the whole world up. I have literally contacts all over the world. But I know a guy in the UK, and I know a woman in Croatia, and I just introduced the two, figuring, you know what, they're kind of operating in the same space. They should know each other. So I get an email from the guy in the UK. He's like 5 hours north of London. And he said, I really want to thank you, Frank, for all the introductions you've made for me. I've got business out of it, and it's great. But I really want to thank you for introducing me to Dina. We really hit it off, and we're dating. I had to read it twice. Really, you're dating? And then I thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, okay, I've known lots of guys who thought they were dating just because she smiled at him. And he's just probably mistaken. And so one day I was sitting, and obviously the UK is 5 hours ahead of us. And it was late afternoon, and I got this Facebook message from this guy's mom. Now I know her kind of, sort of, but I get this Facebook message from this guy's mom thanking me, saying, wow, Simon and Dina, they're just such a great couple. I'm like, what's going on here? And then finally I don't want to say anything to anybody. Who knows what's going on, but she was there. And then I got an email from Dina just saying, hey, listen, I want to let you know that he's the love of my life, and he's coming to spend 3 months with me. So you just never know what's going to come of these things, and I try not to judge. I try to connect people who are open and willing to meet other people and let it go from there. So 5 ways to inspire reciprocity. And again, I'll get you this deck. Adopt the willing mindset. Remember, there's possibilities here, and I care about these people, and I'm going to use these people if I need them, and I'm certainly going to recommend them. Check and compare. Look at your network. Look at the people you've met with this week, and think about them in context with respect to other people sitting on this call, and who can be a good introduction for them. Listen and take action. Listen to what people are saying. You may not even be part of the conversation, but you can listen to what people are saying and then make a recommendation. I couldn't help but overhear you had said this. I know somebody you probably should talk to. What's the worst that's going to happen? Nobody's ever gone to jail over something like that. Generally speaking, people are appreciative of the help we offer. Be the quarterback. Be that person that's offering help and letting people know that, hey, I can help you. If you need anything at all, come to me. And then finally, think big picture. What are the various ways that you can help people here? Yeah, referrals are nice. Referrals that turn into clients are great. Somebody who has money with your name on it is awesome, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's just a question of one introduction leading to the next, ultimately leading to business. I have a franchisee in the United States, a brand new franchisee earlier this year. And I asked him, I said, well, how'd you hear about me? And so he told me how he heard about me. It was a competitor that referred me, which totally floored. It was someone with BNI who I compete with every day that referred me. And I started counting all the steps to how this happened. And there were seven steps to make this thing happen. As far as helping me, if you can, and I put this in the chat, at the very top of the chat is my contact information. I've seen that. I think one of you has already reached out with a LinkedIn request. Happy to accept. But I also have a link there. I do a daily podcast. It's 1 minute every day. You can spare 1 minute just to go and listen to some inspiration or some insight that can help you become more successful. And then certainly share with others if there's something that resonates with you. But that certainly helps me getting more listeners. It helps you because you get insight. And that's one thing that you can do to the people in your network is saying, hey, I know you're down, but I heard this. I wanted to share this with you. That would be wonderful for you to do. I mean, it's 12:15 here. I'll wake up tomorrow. Maybe something will be there. Who knows?